All right, Simone, so where you from? Where's home?
Home is Anniston, Alabama. Really, really small town. It's like east of Birmingham. The only time people ever know what Anniston is if they're passing through Anniston to get to Atlanta.
So you go through it, not to it.
Yeah, basically. And it's crazy. I was watching a documentary on it today. It used to be like the 5th largest city in our state.
Right.
No more. But it's just kind of like a ghost town, really small. Really like Alabama feels. It's like nestled in the Appalachian Mountains. So it's in a valley.
So you are familiar with your hometown. I like the way your
Yeah.
breakdown kind of took me there right there.
Home is where my heart is. And
For
so
sure.
whenever I think of home, I'm immediately thinking of like, all the things that make it feel that nostalgic feeling that you get from your childhood. So
Speaking of, how was growing up in Anniston, Alabama? Small town, you're in the South.
Woo.
Number one question before you dive in, how cold did it get down there? Or does it get down there?
So I thought that I was getting away from the craziness of the weather when I was moving to Oklahoma. The weather here is exactly like the weather back home.
That's sporadic.
Identical. The only thing I'll say, the extremes are a little bit more. Like we have pretty nice weather, but my brother was talking about it's still burning up there. So yeah, it's kind of weird.
Mid-October?
Mid-October. But watch, it's going to drop to like 15 degrees. And then everybody's going to be in Uggs and sweaters in like no time. So.
Man, I haven't seen Uggs in years. That's a blast from the past. For
I just had Uggs on at school on Monday.
See?
When we had that drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was it growing up, though? You mentioned your brother. How many of y'all was it?
It's 4 of us.
4 of y'all?
And my mom raised us all by herself.
Yeah.
She got married later in life, but it was just always us. Pretty rough. I had a pretty rough childhood growing up. But what's the saying? Like sticks and stones may break your bones, but don't let your circumstances break you. So that was totally me.
Right.
My mom was a single parent. She struggled a lot. We lived with my grandparents for a while, and then we were off and on with her. We lived with my aunt for a while. So, it was kind of wherever we could fit in at the moment. And then the older we got, the more stable it was. But I definitely think growing up in those situations taught me more responsibility.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was just like very mature at a very young age. Like it was no nonsense. I think that's why I'm like so goofy and carefree now, because I've had to be so serious all my life.
You kind of let the guard down.
Yeah, now I'm just kind of like, gonna live how I want to live.
Now, my dad said something to me before, and I've always remembered it because he grew up similar to the way you just described your upbringing. And he told me, I'm not calling you poor, but he said, I didn't know we were poor until we finally went to the other side of town and saw a different level of living. And we were like, oh, we are sort of missing out on some things. I'm gearing up to ask you, were you aware that y'all had some less than type circumstances while you were in it, or did you grow out of it and then be like, oh, dang, it was kind of rough now that I look back?
Yeah, no. I wish that I had been blinded from the fact that, we were the have-nots, but that was totally not what the case was. Like I said, I was very mature for my age.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I was watching my brothers and sisters while my mom was at work, or
you the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Salute
yes.
To you.
So I'm like mama of the hen house. My siblings always come to me for advice, or whenever they have a question about something. So I was always very aware because my mom was always very open with me.
True.
And so I never had to worry about the circumstances, but I always knew that they were there. So she did her best to make sure that we were shielded from it. But me being the oldest, I'm kind of like the helping hand.
True.
So a lot of the responsibilities fell on me. And so, especially at school, kids can be kind of mean at school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was bullied a lot in middle and then the beginning of high school. And then something happened, my junior and senior year, it just kind of stopped. And I got class president and senior class representative, Miss Senior, and all this other stuff at homecoming. And from there, it's just kind of regardless of what happens in your life or what people say, you kind of have to make your own plan for what you want to do. You can't let those circumstances dictate what your future's going to be.
Right.
If you let it do that, then you'll never be able to accomplish anything. So I had that on in my head very early on, and just trying to figure out, okay, what path do I want to take? This is clearly not the type of life that I want to live. So,
True that.
Yeah, and I had set an example for my siblings.
Yeah.
So that was a big part too.
Were they? First of all, did y'all get along? You and the siblings, or did?
Oh my gosh!
Uh-oh. think I know where this is going.
When we were younger, my sisters and I were very close.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, not so much. Just because, we're girls. There were 3 girls and 1 boy.
Oh,
so
bless him.
Yeah, it was me and then my younger sister. My brother is the 3rd born, the only boy, and then my baby sister.
Yeah.
And we were bad. Like,
bad.
We were bad. We weren't bad outside of home,
True.
but within those 4 walls, it was bad. Like,
cutting up.
Yes.
And you know what? That's actually a little bit, I won't say backwards, but that's a little unconventional because I guess I'm used to hearing folks shaping up when they get home because they're under the thumb of whoever's running the house. And then when you break loose and get out of there, it's like, whew, we can cut up. But see, y'all cut up at home.
No, we were terrified of my mom. Like,
there
you
go.
knew, like, okay, you're not about to do this outside because if you embarrass me,
there you go.
when we get home.
That's right.
So it was definitely, we knew to respect her and to respect, her as a parent when we were outside. So I take that back. I knew that.
You knew. Okay.
Yeah,
I like how you separated.
Yeah, my siblings were they do their own thing. They're free spirits. My brother and I, oddly enough, we were not the closest growing up, but now we're probably the closest out of us 4 now. We talk just about every day. If I don't pick up his FaceTime, he's like about to have a fit.
It's gonna be a misunderstanding.
It's gonna be a misunderstanding. So we're a lot alike. We're more of like the academic of our siblings, and we care about grades, and we care about like what our future's gonna be like. And then
Was that your slide backhanded way of saying we're the 2 smartest of the 4?
You know what? We're all smart.
Okay.
We're all smart, but we just are very like, and we're also both very blunt. Like we don't.
Shoot straight.
Yeah, it's like
okay,
I'm not about to do all that extra stuff. Here's the point: we're both type A personalities, and I think that's probably why we get along so much now because we're older, and he's in college, and I've already been there, so now he's figuring himself out, which is amazing. But
that's a beautiful thing to watch them figure themselves out.
Oh yeah, it's awkward though because I can remember when like his voice started cracking for the first time. I'm just like, are you growing up on me?
Yeah.
It's very weird seeing the ones whose diapers you changed. They're like full-fledged adults now. So
salute to that. And I always have to ask the siblings question because maybe this is corny or whatever, but I have a softness for seeing siblings getting along. Because I'm one of 2. My brother, he's younger than me by 2 years.
2 boys.
2 boys. But that's how my mother wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, hey, her and dad made 2 good ones, I think. But we went through our
spats. If you do say so yourself.
But he and I, we had our spats. But even now, if you ever got to know him, we are so different, but we're still super tight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I love to hear that. Now, I hate to go back to a dark place, but you said bullying.
No. Oh, yeah.
Now, kids are cruel for sure. They can be relentless. They can be unforgiving. But like, what was the bullying that took place against you? Was it just verbal, or were people trying to get physical? Nobody just stuck your head in the toilet and shook the change out of your pocket.
Oh no! So it never got to that point. One, because I think once I got into middle school, I'm ashamed to even say this now because I'm always telling my kids violence is not the way. But my 6th grade year, I ended up getting into a fight with a girl because she was bullying me and she had called my mom at her name. That's like my trigger.
Yeah.
Because we had already been through so much, and I think that's what kids don't understand. People go through yes. I'm like, okay, first of all, that's my mom.
Right.
And I definitely let my anger get the best of me, and I ended up, having a fight with this girl. But from that point on, like, it still happened, but no one was crazy enough to put their hands on me. Like, it was never that bad. And granted, they had definitely had a reason to pick on me because I had like braces and glasses, and not the cool glasses that I have now.
The big thick
like
joints.
The thick joints.
At one time. Both at once?
Both at one time.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, so my baby teeth never fell out. Fun fact. Baby teeth never fell out. So I had to get these 2 teeth pulled in the front. So for like a good year, these teeth were growing in. And I had braces. Yeah, I was like and I was the smartest in the class.
Of course it was like you look like it.
Triple threat right there.
That's right.
3 strikes against me.
Golly. Now, on that smart thing, were you ever ashamed of being bright because they poked fun at you?
No, because I had an amazing. My godparents have always kind of been those ones who have pushed me along because like I said, I grew up with rough circumstances, and they saw the potential in me, and they never wanted me to feel like I was less than.
Right.
And so they always instilled in me how important education was, and how they wanted me to go farther, and they wanted me to do, so much better than what I had seen. And so in school, I was like, Yeah, I'm smart.
Mm-hmm.
Miss A, you gave me a 94, and I think I need a 98. Like, so I was not ashamed of it at all, and I think that probably made the poking worse because I was just like,
yeah, I want to answer all the questions.
yeah.
I feel that. Now let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you a question, but don't answer it. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
What was your favorite subject in school? And the reason why I'm asking this, I always struggled with math, right? Like me and math didn't get along at all. And so I would work hard just to get that 70, just to get that strong C. I was proud of that, beat my chest. And then I would have one of my classmates, similar to the way you just described yourself, get a 97 and be tight, mad. I'm looking like, you ungrateful little. Please switch papers with me right now. You know what I mean? So what was your favorite / strongest subject when you were in school?
So oddly enough, I'm a teacher now, but I did not have a favorite subject really. When I was in school, I think my strongest subject was, gosh, I don't even know, maybe social studies.
Maybe, huh?
Yeah, maybe social studies. And that was just because I found history to be, really exciting. But I'm like bad with dates, and so I had to work harder at that one, and so that became my strongest one. But I'm a STEM teacher, and like my platform for the pageant is Girls in STEM.
Yeah.
I hated math growing up. My dad majored in math, and was a mathematics professor in college. And I just felt like I was not good at it. Like, I think I didn't like it because I wasn't good at it. And I was so used to just being able to pick up stuff. Again, like I said, I never got like below an A in it, but it was like my lowest A.
That's a little stunt.
Yeah.
Right there. Okay.
It was just my lowest A. And it didn't come naturally for me, and I wasn't really interested in it. So I would like call my goddad when I got home and be like, okay, here's this problem. I'm about to send you a picture of it. And we would just sit there on the phone and just like work through problems for hours. And I think the more we did that, and then my 12th grade teacher was phenomenal in math. I was taking like pre-calculus or something.
Okay. I was going to say, because if you're still taking math as a senior, you're trying to overachieve a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was in AP classes. Credit. Yeah, exactly.
Salute.
And so it may have been 11th or 12th grade year when I took, it was 11th grade year when I took pre-cal. And she was just so amazing, and she made it so fun, and she was like really quirky, and she was just her authentic self. And so I think her and my goddad being able to just like really help me through it, I was like, I like this challenge. Like, then it became like, oh, now I have to figure out this problem. So she would give me challenge problems, and I'd go home and try to work them out. But I didn't love math until I was in 11th or 12th grade. So
also, it turned into love at that point. Once you got better at it.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I think the older I got, I was just more rebellious, and so anything that was a challenge for me, I was like, I want that. So it was just something that, it was almost like the forbidden fruit. When you're a kid, if it's something you can't just easily have, you're like, oh, I want it more.
Yeah.
So
and especially if
like
somebody tells you no.
Yeah.
Why not? Let me see what's to this.
So it was definitely a late love for mathematics. But now it's literally my favorite subject. I teach it every day, and I absolutely love it. So.
Salute to you in the full circle. Now, outside of the realm of academics, as far as extracurricular activities go, were you into anything, or did you ever play sports? Were you in anything at that level other than just being the brightest bulb in the classroom?
So I was in like a lot of honor societies.
Yeah.
And then when I got into high school, I dabbled in softball.
Yeah.
And all throughout those years, the only thing that was really extracurricular that remained constant in my life was band. I played the clarinet.
I did not know that.
Yes. I played the clarinet, and I played a little bit of the viola. Like, I scratched the surface of starting to learn it. But band was like my constant from like 6th grade to 12th grade. I played just about every year.
Is that something you found on your own, or were you was that thrusted upon you?
So when we got to middle school, they pushed band a lot. And so I didn't really do a whole lot. Like, my mom was really strict. And I knew, I tried out for basketball. I went to one tryout, and I don't like running. So that was dead. Like that was done. I knew I wasn't going to do anything like that.
For sure.
So when I went into band, it was something that I could kind of understand. And I learned later is because, band is a lot like mathematics. I was like, so it was always there. It was always up there somewhere.
Right.
I just had to kind of grasp onto it. But just like being able to create music was like the greatest thing ever to me. And I would just like sit there and like play on my clarinet. And I remember I started off with like a recorder in like 4th grade.
Fourth, huh?
Yeah, in like 4th grade, we had like it was like an auxiliary band in elementary school. So when I actually got a real instrument and I was able to create music, and I was like, I learned you could get money in college for it. I was like, oh, bet, I'm doing this. So
money in college, break that down.
Scholarships.
Okay.
Yeah, scholarships.
Okay. All right.
Oddly enough,
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, oddly enough, when I got to 12th grade, though, I was like, I'm not doing band in college.
Why was it just not? Oh, okay.
I was over it, and I also,
Cool
I was going to a PWI, and my high school was predominantly Black, and I was like, I'm not marching the core style band. Like, I'm not gonna do it. So,
were you always a lover of music though? Did that contribute in any way to you finding band?
Not really.
Not really.
I wasn't a kid that like listened to one genre. Like, I listened to everything. I listened to pop and rock, and I loved country. But there wasn't like one particular thing that tied me to music. It just kind of was like, one, I got to stay after school, which was really cool, and so I didn't have to go straight home and like babysit my siblings. So it was like a lot of factors that played into it. But also, I had an amazing band teacher in middle and high school. So I had Mr. Tyson Hall in middle school, and he like really fostered that love for music when I was in middle school, because he's like, you can do this, like, you're one of my brightest students. When teachers tell you that,
right, it
really starts to like grow in your mind. And I got to high school, and I had another band teacher who was absolutely amazing, and Mr. Mitchell, he dropped me off from practice if I needed it, and he would pick me up if I needed it. And so this man literally fed me. So he was so much more than a teacher. And it's just like, when you have that teacher that's there for you, and they're like able to provide, security for you, it becomes so much more than an extracurricular. That becomes your family. So band was definitely my family, and man, it was a wonderful time.
With Anniston being a small town, was it traditional in the sense of, hey, pretty much everybody knows everybody?
Oh yeah.
See, there you go.
And everybody's related to everybody.
That's their village.
Definitely. I don't think there was anybody in town that I just didn't know or hadn't heard of, or because it was pretty tight knit. My high school graduating class was only like 110 students, so it wasn't. It was a lot like Millwood. Yeah,
30 minutes.
Yeah, no, really, really quick.
Right.
So we all grew up together. Most of us have been together since at least middle school.
Right.
So it was always really close knit. But I was, like I said, I was just kind of like on the outside. Not really. I didn't talk a whole lot. I was very quiet.
That's hard to believe.
Okay, I was just about to say, people always tell me, like, I can't believe, like, I'm an introvert today, right now, like, in my everyday life.
True that. I understand that terminology now because I'm grown. But back then, I was like, well, what you're saying is totally opposite of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I like clam up when I'm in like social settings, and it's all these like weird things that start happening. I'm just like, oh, I'm nervous, but I have like a switch. So once I like turn on, it's almost like I have an alter ego. It's like my Sasha Fierce.
I feel that.
It's coming on.
I feel that.
Like, okay, no time to be an introvert right now.
Yeah. Now, that may sound goofy to somebody else, but I get that. Because, I consider myself to be a people person, but even in a room full of folks, I can figure out a way to be, like, exist in my own space in this place full of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But it's a switch, though. Whenever it's time to engage, okay, I know how to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then by the time I get home, I'm like drained. So I just play with my puppy.
Does take a lot out of you, though.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving out of high school, it's time to graduate. Where'd you go to college?
I went to school at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide Roll.
Okay.
All
a lot
right,
of pride.
number one.
I like that.
Yes. My family, all growing up, they were all Alabama fans.
Fair enough.
Die hard. Like, my granddad would watch the football games every Saturday. And so, I don't know, maybe around 10th grade, I was like, okay, maybe I'll think about Alabama. But I honestly was trying to get out of the state.
You know where I'm going. That's what I was gearing up for.
I was trying to get out of the state, but I started taking college courses in 10th grade. And so when I started taking those college courses at Alabama, I fell in love. I was like, this is where I want to go to school. And so I had already been going there and taking courses and visiting the campus. So when it was time to graduate, I had already made up my mind.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to Bama.
What else was on the horizon for you in terms? Did you have a list, for lack of a better term, of schools that, okay, I'm narrowing it down to A, B, C?
Yeah.
What else made the list?
So I actually applied to Harvard. I applied to Yale. I didn't get into Yale. I actually had an interview with a committee from Harvard, and I missed the interview. Yeah, completely missed it.
How in the hell?
I know.
How'd you do that?
There were some circumstances at home, and I just couldn't make it, which was perfectly fine. But yeah, my counselor was just like, "How did you miss that?"
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone, no one that I know of, like had ever had an opportunity like that coming from our school. And so we were just trying to get into, D1 schools,
For sure.
Not even thinking about Ivy League. So that was one I was just heartbroken.
But you know what? At least you didn't tell me that you forgot.
Yeah, no.
I would have a problem with that. I would have a problem.
No, yeah, that would have been very careless of me, and my godmom probably would kill me. Right. But yeah, I just had a lot of circumstances going on. But I definitely was also thinking about Spelman, and I had applied to Spelman, and I got in. And there were a couple like other HBCUs. Like my dad went to Tuskegee, and my goddad went to Tuskegee, and my godmom, she went to Alabama A&M. And so I applied to those and got scholarships to those schools. But I mean, like, it was mostly just like at this point, how you have the senior award ceremony and they tell like who got scholarships and like what schools they got accepted to. And our school would actually like put up what schools you got accepted to.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was just like, okay, how many of these letters can I get put up? Because I already knew I was going to Bama. Like at that point, I already knew. Yeah, I already knew.
Okay.
And I applied to LSU and got into LSU actually. So
you just winning.
Yeah.
So you were like 7-1, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much.
Only one that was like, nah, it was Yale. Right?
Yeah. It was like a big no. And I didn't completely get through the process at Harvard because I had, some more stuff to get through. But
I feel it.
In my mind, it's crazy because this past summer I actually took some courses at Harvard though. So it circled back around. So I still got to take my classes there.
So are you still schooling?
Not currently. So I do professional development. And
I know that now.
Yeah, career learning.
Go through that.
Yeah, so I do those, and I've taken a couple courses at Harvard
Sure.
that I do with that, and so that's the only thing that I'm doing right now. I'm studying for law school, and so that's kind of in the distant future. After I, get my stuff together and I win Miss Oklahoma.
Yeah,
but
we're gonna get into that. Get into that. That's for sure. Now, tell me about your collegiate experience. How was it? You going to Alabama, and it's don't let me misspeak, but
it's predominantly white.
I wasn't even going there, but
yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
Yeah.
But me being an Oklahoma boy, when I think Alabama, obviously I'm thinking about football.
Yeah.
Obviously, with that being the driving force and source of the institution. So how were you able to maneuver and find your way then at Alabama?
So, man, I remember my first day on campus. I was so happy because, I had never really been out of my hometown. I had gone on summer trips and stuff like that, but this was my first time away from home.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. And then maybe like a weekend, I got so homesick and I was crying and just like ready to go. But as the school year went on, I kind of like you said, I found my way. Classes were a lot harder than high school. And so I found myself in the library a lot. And I actually had like some core friends that I knew from high school who had gone to Alabama, so I kind of connected with them. But it was rough. I actually did not enjoy college until like maybe my junior year. I didn't start actually like enjoying myself. It was just kind of like going through the motions, like, let me get this degree.
Yeah.
But I actually got accepted into my teacher education program my junior year. We had to apply. They like only accept 20 girls or guys. It was 20 girls in my cohort. Really hard to get into. And so we were just extremely close.
Yeah.
We had, unlike, normal college classes where you may have like class at 8 a.m. and then you may have like an 11 a.m. or like a 2 p.m. We were in class all day with the same professors from 8 to 2:30 every day.
Dang.
Yeah. So we were like together.
Had no choice but to be close.
Yeah. So, I mean, our cohort of girls, we absolutely loved on each other. We went to dinners together. And I think that's when I found that sense of community. Because like I said, I was such an extrovert and,
extrovert or introvert?
I was an introvert. I'm sorry.
I was
such an introvert. No. And so I didn't like go to parties or, I would go to a football game.
True.
Like the big ones, but I just didn't enjoy like going out. And so, you know, in college, that's where you meet a lot of people.
That's
and so I was in my dorm room all the time. But
chilling.
yeah, when I joined that program, it kind of gave me a sense of community. And so that's when I truly like found out who Simone is as, you know, an adult and an individual. Because I actually got to be around a group of girls who were super supportive of everything that, you know, each other did.
I love that right there. And we all need somebody.
Yeah.
At some point, you know, it is hard out here on our own.
Yeah.
Now, your first subject, you touched on it a little bit. Can you remember which course was the first one that sort of smacks you and was like, oh, this is not high school. This is tough.
Yes.
Which one of them got you on the ropes?
So my very first day in college is actually the same day I met my best friend, Scotty. We were in class together and I'm like super excited, super pumped. He has us introducing ourselves. I like stand up and I'm like, my name is Simone Thompson and I'm super excited to be here. Yeah. And I can see him just like grimacing from the other side of the room. He's just like, oh, who is this? Like, yeah.
There's always one. No,
man, that was like the first and last day I was happy in that class. It was political science. It was political, because I was pre-law. Okay. Political science, and that was the hardest class.
Rough, huh?
I think because it was just so different than what I was used to, and I was so used to being able to just get stuff. But we're in here learning like about like constitutional law and like the very base level stuff, like not even upper level poli sci. Yeah, and oh my gosh, my best friend and I, we complained about that class every day.
So you had somebody else in the struggle with you.
Yes, and I think that's kind of what we bonded over, because we would go to class like, oh,
here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So that was definitely the first one, and it was the first time. I think it was the first time I had gotten a C.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Like,
yeah, that was my first time getting a C, and I worked hard for that C. I worked hard. I was so proud.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think college was the first time I got a C.
Here's $1 million question. What did your homeboy end up with? Did he get a C too, or did he go up above you?
I'm pretty sure he got a C.
Oh, okay.
Like, we both really hated that class.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to call him after this and be like, what did you? But I'm pretty sure it was a C. Like, we were kind of floating.
Now, was it at all interesting, or were you just like, I'm over it because it's hard?
Yeah. Well, no, I was definitely struck. Okay, so let me start off by saying I was hard-headed in my decision to go to Bama, because I had free rides to, you know, all that HBCUs that I had applied to. I had scholarships to some of the other schools that I had applied to. Bama gave me nothing when I went to Bama. I had no scholarships to Bama, and I graduated salutatorian in my class. Mm-hmm. I had no scholarships, so I didn't have books. Like my first like couple of weeks into the semester, I didn't have like books at all. And so I literally we would have to do the reading, and I would like be on like Quizlet looking for, you know, answers to the reading or like stuff like that. So I think me having like a rough start, and I was also very proud, so like I wouldn't call home to my godparents and tell them like I didn't have this. I was really just trying to make it.
Right.
And I look back like that was so stupid. I should have just, you know, asked for help.
Yeah.
But I was out there trying to be grown. I was on my own, you know, tired of everything, thinking I could manage. And so that just made my experience so much harder than it had to be, because I'm in class like dying, hoping he doesn't call on me.
Yeah.
Like,
how about you, Miss Thompson?
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, actually.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pass on this.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. And so I actually, a little bit after I got my book, I actually, you know, was sign up for his office hours, and I would be in there like, can you help me with this? And from that point on, he's like, you know, I think you're a really bright student. It seems like you like really want to be here. And he kind of is the reason I passed the class, because I would go to office hours and he would just tutor me on all that stuff that I had missed because I didn't have materials. And so it was just like a lack of resources. And so, yeah, I just made it a lot harder than I had to.
How often did you revisit the fact that you turned down all this money elsewhere to come over here out on your own? Did you ever have the moments like, man, see, I knew I should have went?
Yes. So after my freshman year, actually, I had come home and I had not even enough to finish paying for my second semester. I think I was like $3,000 short of like being able to register for my fall classes. So I was basically at home. Yeah, I was basically at home, like not able to go back to school that summer. I cried. So I just started like, I remember sitting down and just like bawling. And I was like, something's got to give. Like, I had already like asked my godparents to pay for the rest of my first semester, so I couldn't go back to them. So I just started writing letters. Like writing letters to anybody that I think would listen, any organization that I thought had like resources or funding, and just like applying for scholarships through our portal. She said, you know, I really want to help you. Like, you're a graduate of Anderson High. Like, it's, you know, we hate to hear that you was the salutatorian and you're not able to pay for school. Like, let's get this fixed. She ended up putting me in contact with a man named Cleophas Thomas, who had also graduated from Anderson High. He actually was the first Black SGA president at Alabama. And he actually was sitting on the board of trustees at this time. So she called him, or, you know, she called someone who called him. He ended up getting me a scholarship that paid for the rest of my schooling, in addition to me getting some more scholarships. So yeah, you know, when the Lord says, you know, something is for you, it's for you. Because I prayed and just bawled and cried, and I was literally at my wit's end. And I think that was probably the lesson in that, because I was leaning on my own understanding and not what he had told me from the beginning. So, and
it's always on his time.
It's always on his timing, and he will humble you real quick. Like, little girl, you think you're grown.
Break you down.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. So when I humbled myself and, you know, really just like prayed and sought out the help that I was looking for, everything fell in my lap.
A couple things I want to ask you from that soliloquy right there, 'cause that's a beautiful story, and I'm glad to see you made it out on the other side. Yes. But with you being a teacher now, how important is it to you, or better yet, how more willing are you to work with a student who actually takes the initiative and comes to you and says, "Hey, I need some help here"? Because it sounds like you were persistent in that regard with your professor, like, "Hey, I'm in your face every day. I need some help."
Yeah.
Like, does that play a part in how you work with each of your students?
It definitely does. I truly, truly, truly want all of my students to succeed. Mm-hmm. Like, I get distraught when they're not doing well in class. And so whenever I have a student who's struggling and, you know, I can tell that they're really trying, I can tell that they really want to get the information. It tugs on my heartstrings a lot because I've been in that situation. But that's also a reason that I love Millwood so much. I see myself in my students. And so in those situations, like, I can't help but to come early if they need to come early, or, you know, stay late if you can only stay after school, or if you need to come to me during lunch. I've done that too. And so I'm constantly trying to find ways to, like, get them where they need to be. But, you know, kids can be hard-headed. Oh, yeah. And so it's a lot of times it's just getting them there and getting them to understand that, like, the help is here. Take it. And so every now and then, I just force them to come to tutoring. Like, you staying? Let me call your mama. You staying after school? There you
go. You know, take that lunch away from us. Ooh,
yeah, because they don't know any better. And I wish someone had done that to me. You know, sit me down, because you know, when you're that age, you think you know everything.
You do. And you soon find out. Like you said, there's a lot more out here for us to attain. Mm-hmm. Now, in college, you talked about, well, particularly before you got the big break that you just broke down for us from Mr. Thomas. Is that his last name?
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely call him
Mr. Cleophas Thomas.
That's a big timer right there. But were you working?
Yes.
During college? I
had 3 jobs.
Oh my God. Listen, I got a newfound level of respect for students who work while they're full-time students. Now, part-time, I mean, that's a grind too, but a full-time student, right? Mm-hmm. You said 3 jobs?
Yeah. How? So at one point, I was bussing tables at this restaurant across from the stadium. So I would do that every weekend and on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I also worked as a desk assistant at the administration office. So right outside the president's office in advancement. I would work there and answer phones and file papers. And then I also, at one point, was refereeing softball, intramural softball at the rec. Wow. At nights. So anything I could get to, like, get money and, you know, pay for school and, you know, get extra money for food, because everybody knows, like, the meal swipes when the calf closes is like, okay, now I need extra food. So anything I could get to, like, be able to go to the store and, like, buy what I needed. And so all throughout college I had a job.
Even over the summer when you go home?
So in the summers, I actually stayed in Tuscaloosa, and while I was there, I would either be helping at the Office of Advancement, or one summer I worked at a daycare center, and so I was always working.
Finding a way out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
Now, throughout all that, it sounds like you were juggling a lot too, and I think as humans, we all sort of thrive in routine. we do have some things, at least me, I'll speak for me. I got some elements of my life that are totally random. Like at a moment's notice, I'll be feeling a certain way and I'll just go do something. But for the most part, I need a routine. Like how long did it take for you to get in a rhythm and how to balance job A, B, C, and the academics?
I honestly never really had the choice of like, it was like either do or die. Like I have to do this. And I was so used to like taking care of my siblings and like I said, I had band practice and then I had school and I also had a job in high school. So I was used to juggling a lot. And this was no different. I had a lot more freedom now and I had to like get myself there and, figure out when my schedules were. But the learning curve had already kind of happened because I had been doing it throughout high school and I was like really used to just working and, grinding. And so in college, it was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
like,
round two.
Yeah, round two. And so I think the goal of just like graduating college and being the first one in my family, because no one else had gone to college and graduated in my immediate family. And so just that right there and like being an example to my siblings, so they would like call me and be like, oh my gosh, like you're in college. It was enough to keep me going. Right. But there were definitely like a lot of rough days in there where I just didn't know where my energy was going to come from. And there were a lot of times I didn't take care of myself. So I was like hospitalized at one point because I hadn't eaten in 3 days. I was just working and going to school. And so it was a lot of lessons kind of sprinkled off in there that I learned the hard way. But
you had tunnel vision, huh?
Yeah.
For better or for worse?
I was like, gotta get it done.
Yeah.
Like there's no plan B. This is plan A through Z. This is it.
If this don't work, I'm out of here.
Right. When
your siblings would call you, would you sort of front for them or would you let them know, hey, this is not all peaches and cream?
So I've always been the backbone for my siblings. And so they hardly ever knew if something like was happening with me. Just because they had so much going on still at home while I was at college.
Right.
And I'm always like, saver. So I just like need to save this person. I need to save this person. If it's my siblings, then I'm not gonna, even think twice about it. No so hesitation. I was just very strong for them. And I never would complain to them. Like I remember my godmom would like call and she'd be the person I'd break down to, just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And she'd be like, pick your head up.
Sure.
You got this. Like, you're just gonna have to learn. Like, this is what adulting is.
True.
And I learned much later that like what I was going through was actually like anxiety and depression. And I didn't know what that was because I had never been exposed to like how to cope with those things.
Right.
And so looking back, it was like, wow, I was like really going through some stuff. But I'm really proud at how strong I was because, like I said, I had my siblings to give that example to.
That's what did you ever feel sort of survivor's guilt or remorse? Like you made it out in a sense. Now, obviously, you went into a different phase of some totally new challenges. Yeah. But did you ever look at it like, dang, I'm over here doing what I've been dreaming of for a while, and then I got my bro and my sisters over here stealing them certain things. How'd you deal with that?
Every week.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the phone with my godmom and my grandma. And just like I said, crying because they were going through some stuff and like I didn't have enough money to like, get them what they needed. And so it was just like I said, I'm like second mom to them. Yeah. So if they don't have something, I definitely want to be that person for them. And I can remember it may have been my godmom or my grandma, but they were both on the phone and they were just saying, you have got to stop picking up everybody's burdens. Like you have enough to carry for yourself. And they're like, you're in uncharted territory right now. You don't have anyone, besides us that you can call and, try to figure things out. So you've got to focus on you. Because at the end of the day, like, this is what what you need to be doing. And so I think, like I said, it probably took me like 3 years of college though, before I could finally be like, I've got to worry about myself. Because at one point I was like, I'm leaving college. Like, I've got to go take care of my siblings. I'll just get, a full-time job. And like I said, my godmom was like, absolutely not.
That ain't happening.
You are not coming home. And so thank God I had them.
True.
Because they were kind of like my pick-me-up. But like I said, every week, every day that I talked to them, it was just like, I feel so bad for leaving y'all. But now being in this situation, I can help them a lot more. They're a little bit older, but they're still my babies. They still call me. Right. And so I'm glad that I persevered because now I'm in a much better position to help them than I was.
You mentioned pre-law,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, obviously, that was a part of. It is at least one of those chapters of your story.
Yeah.
Now here you are as an educator. What happened? How'd you get from that extreme to this extreme?
Okay, so Dr. Shauku's class, I remember his name.
Okay, say it again.
Dr. Shauku.
Shauku.
Yeah,
okay.
so if you're watching this,
For sure.
you made me change my major, sir.
Ooh.
He was that political science teacher. He was really helpful, but I was like, okay, maybe this is not for me right now.
I feel that.
So I was just kind of like shopping around. I still was pre-law, but I didn't know if I like what route I wanted to take.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was, paying for college,
Yeah.
I actually got a job tutoring at a low-income school for this program called America Reads, America Counts. And so they would pay college kids to go in and tutor elementary school kids in urban schools, low-income schools. And that was how I started making money, maybe like my sophomore year. And so when I was in the schools, I was just like, wow, like, I thought I didn't like kids, but like I really like being here. And they were just so much fun to be around, and it was so much fun like teaching them math and like teaching them reading and playing with them. And somewhere down the line, like my heart was just like, this is where I want to be every day.
Yeah.
Like this is what I want to do every single day, because I just got so much joy from it.
That's a good feeling, ain't it?
Oh yeah, and I think that was the moment I was like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. And so right then I was like, okay, I need to change my major. I changed my major to education, and then I found out about the multiple abilities program, my major, my program that I got into.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied, got in, and from there it was just like, this is what I want to do. And so yeah, it was one of my many jobs that kind of helped me find my purpose.
Now, what age group were those kids that you were going and tutoring?
Elementary. So I'm actually traditionally trained in elementary. When you transfer like all of your certificates and stuff, now I can do up to 8th grade in Oklahoma. But in Alabama, like my certification is like pre-K through 6. And so all of the schools that I had gone into were that age range. They were like little kids. I did an internship in kindergarten. I did an internship in 5th grade in special ed. And so I was just like, oh, I love all of this.
Straight up.
So it was the little kids. But as I was like teaching, you kind of find like what grade levels you like more. And I was like, I want 5th or 6th. Like 5th or 6th were my sweet spots. And so I guess we'll kind of get to how I got to Oklahoma.
Yeah, because we definitely coming. But from an instructional standpoint, because we both are teachers, all right? But I'm also a coach. And one thing, I coach basketball, and I can remember earlier in my career, one of the challenges I would run into is that I would see a kid, right, who's struggling with something that was so easy for me. And it was tough for me to meet that kid where he was. I'm just in my mind like, why can't you do this? Did you ever have one of those moments where something you thought was very simple, but such and such was just struggling with it? And if so, how'd you bridge that gap?
Yeah. When I first started going into like my practicums and first started going into like my internship, I had, first of all, amazing professors. My professors in college are literally the best at what they do. And so they had kind of like prepped us for it. And so we would go in, we would teach a lesson, they'd be observing us, and then we come back and they say, okay, so this is where the disconnect is, like this is what's happening. And so we would literally read case studies on kids and like how the kid mind works and like, how their brain develops. And so we would truly like dive into that stuff and try to figure out what is it that's missing? Like how do we reach them?
Right.
And I think the way that I was able to figure it out is every kid can learn. Every kid has the potential to get the information. It's just, are you engaging them in the right way? Are you reaching them? And do you have that connection, that relationship with them? That's the key. And so when I was first going in, I was like, oh, he don't know 2 + 2. Like how don't kids know 2 + 2? I was kind of like shocked because I'm like, yeah, we all have to truly start somewhere. Like they don't even have one-to-one correspondence. They can't point to something and count. And so I think it was just a lot of coaching. They coached us through everything that 2 years. Like I said, we were in class together all day. So they had plenty of time to like critique us on our teaching. Cause I was just like you. I'm like, okay, I thought I wanted to do this, but
hold on, no.
Yeah, it's tough.
Where the sunny days at?
Yeah.
Beautiful thing. So after you graduated, hold on, did you get out in 4 years?
Oh yeah.
Salute to you.
Oh yeah.
Not everybody can do that when you got out 4 years too.
Well, my scholarship ran out after year 4, so I was
let me
get
yes.
let me get this done.
Fair enough. Touche. So upon graduating, what was the very next move for you? Because you're up here in Oklahoma, and I'm trying to figure out how you ended up here from Anniston, Alabama, and from the University of Alabama. So take me through that.
So back in Tuscaloosa and the surrounding areas, and I'm not even tooting my own horn, but anybody who is in that area, no, I'm not. But anybody who's in that area, they know the people who graduate from my program, and we're called mappers. Right. It's the acronym, but we're called mappers, and we're in very high demand. But oftentimes, like the schools that we go to are like not schools that are super high need schools, and I knew that I wanted to teach kids who looked like me, who had similar backgrounds than me, and the experiences that I had were like kind of few and far between with those types of students. And so I was like, man, what would be the best way for me to do that? I want to give back to my community. I definitely want to be around my people. And so I kind of was like researching, and someone told me about this program called Teach for America. I didn't really know what it was. And then when I started reading up on it, I actually found out that it was mostly for non-education majors who were being placed in, classrooms, and they would go through training, and then you would serve for 2 years. And that's kind of how they would like give their service back. And so I was like, I don't know about it. And so I sat down with a recruiter one day at Starbucks, and she was absolutely amazing. I mean, the people that I've come in contact with the last few years of my life have truly been godsend. Right. Was that one just by happenstance, or did y'all appoint this and say, hey, we're going to meet and sit down and do that? We said we were going to meet because someone had told me about the program and said that I may like it. And so I actually got in contact, or they had her get in contact with me. Yeah. She's like, let's sit down at Starbucks. Let's see if you like it. I honestly went into the meeting thinking that I wasn't like going to get anything from it. I was like, whatever. And so at the end of the meeting, I was like, wow, like I really think I can make a difference in children's lives. One of the things that really hit me with the program is that they are very culturally responsive in their approaches to teaching. And so that was one thing that I was like, oh, like I would love to be a culturally responsive teacher. I want to be in that classroom teaching my Black kids about Black history along with American history. Sure. I want to make sure that they're getting their heritage and their culture. And so I was really excited. And so I went through the program, had to do like this long interview process that was like 4 hours long. We were there all day. And then I got my acceptance letter, and they said, where would you like to go? And I was like, Dallas. And they were like, you're going to Oklahoma. So wow. So you didn't really have a choice, huh? I didn't really have a choice. I put Oklahoma as my second choice because it was close to Dallas. Sure. I honestly thought I was going to get Dallas. And so they put me in Oklahoma because Oklahoma is a high need area. Obviously, we have a teacher shortage here. Absolutely. For many reasons. Oh, yeah. But that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, they were just basically like, what grade level would you like to teach? What subject would you like to teach? And I said, my dream job is 6th grade math. So when I got here, they said, we actually found a position where you could do 6th grade math. I remember when I got the assignment for 6th grade math, I was in my kindergarten internship, sitting with my kindergarten teacher. And she's like, are you going to open it? And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to open it. She's like, okay, just go open it. And she she recorded the whole thing. Like it was this big thing. They ended up getting me like a cookie cake. Yeah. It was awesome. And so I got here and I learned that my assignment was at Millwood, and it's been history ever since. I was so blessed to get Millwood. Like I really think that was the biggest blessing that I've had since I got to Oklahoma. And so you're 2 years in, right? This is my 3rd year teaching. Your 3rd year? Yeah. Okay, okay. So I'm going on 3 years. How much better do you think you are now than you were on day one? Because I know you came in thinking, okay, I'm going to be pretty good at this. You know what I mean? Not to say you weren't, but we always progress, right? Uh-huh. Uh-oh. So let me start off by saying I'm really proud of the work that I did my first year, and it really made me appreciate my professors. That's why I always give praise to them. Because I saw the difference in like my program and other programs that people had gone through. And I think that they were just so thorough with us, and they were so, so many of the good practices were ingrained in us. And so my first year, I really thought I was hot stuff, and I was, But boy, did I hit my face in terms of just like stress of being a teacher every single day. Like I don't have my professors anymore helping me.
Right.
It's me and it's, whatever team I have at this school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first year I cried a lot. And my mom told me I was, because she was a teacher. She was like, you're going to cry.
So you had it honest, huh?
Yeah. My godmom was like, it's okay. It's normal. But I think just going through that and seeing like, wow, is this what my teacher saw when I was a kid? And like finally feeling it from the other side and like wanting to help so bad, but not being able to help in the way that you want to help. Like I can't take all y'all home with me.
I got you.
Make sure you have everything you need. I have to, let you go.
Right.
And it was just really hard accepting that I am not Superwoman. Right. I'm there to love on them and to, teach them as much as I can in those 8 hours. And then after that,
we release them to whatever circumstances that they came from. And that's a rough reality. So you're saying that you weren't necessarily feeling inadequate from an instructional standpoint. It was I can't save them.
Yes.
Like we were talking off camera, trying to save them.
Man, it was just a wake-up call for me. Because my kids were such great kids. And I remember my first year, people telling me like, oh, this group, like, these kids. Oh, you're getting that group.
Yeah.
And I was just like, psh,
yeah,
we'll see. And so I think through that, because I was fighting so hard to prove those stereotypes wrong about them, in addition to them trying to fight them.
Right.
That group who was our 8th graders this year, we were so tight. Like we were, 2 peas in a pod. So it really made me love them like they were my own kids.
There you go.
And I was like, wow, what is this warmness I'm feeling in my body? But it was just, you care so much for them. Mm-hmm. It's truly like they're your own. Like I got 89 kids that year. They were mine.
Now see, nowadays, have you found a way to I guess balance would be the word, in terms of, all right, when I leave work, let me shift gears, so to speak, not flip the switch, because I don't think it ever turns off totally.
It doesn't.
And I think if you're any good at what you do, you take some of it home. But how do you manage how much you take home and how much you leave at work? Have you figured that out yet?
Yeah. So my first year, in terms of paperwork, I brought home paperwork every day. On top of like just being drained from like not being able to help them in the way that I want to. From that year to this year, one, I do not bring graded papers home. I don't grade papers in my house at all. I refuse. I rebuke it.
Relaxation domain.
You see the yoga mat there.
Yeah. Straight up.
Like I do not play.
Yeah.
And so I have just learned that there's always going to be more kids to save. So I'm not going to be able to, be like, okay, so this is how I'm going to save them this year.
Right.
It's impossible. But what I can do is make sure that they're, secure when they're at school. What I can do is make sure they know that I'm a mentor. What I can make sure is that, they're learning and they're working on themselves as human beings. So I think in knowing that I've done that while I was there, it kind of gives me a little bit of satisfaction, and it allows me to relax when I get home, because it's like I've done everything. I've left it all on the table. I've given them every bit of me. And so in doing that, it kind of has allowed me to step back a little bit more. Now I'm still at the softball games, and I still show up to the football games.
There you go.
Man, I even go to birthday parties.
All that.
Yeah.
You're making yourself available.
Yes. But
good.
I definitely am not doing it every day, and I'm not worried about it every day.
Right.
I do what I can, and I leave the rest up to God. I give it to him. Like, Lord, give me peace in this situation.
For sure. From a relationship standpoint, because we're definitely in that space. You know what? For a while, I'll say that I had a problem not getting over whatever issue I might have had with a kid. Like, let's say if I got to discipline a kid, right? Or I have to get after them, or maybe I got to turn up the volume a little bit. And they hate when you do that and put them on the spot, but a lot of times they've been asking for it all day. And so now I got to get you. You know what I mean? But I found myself one time when I saw the kid the next day, I still kind of had my forehead balled up, but they were over it. Like, how are you able to, like, you know what? I had this moment, class is over. even though they might have really got your bacon sizzling, you know what I mean? But when you see them the next day, it's like, all right, it's a clean slate. Come here, let me love on you.
Yeah.
Was that always been easy for you, or was it difficult at some point?
It's always been easy for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of my weakness. Because first of all, they get a lot of tough love from me.
Oh yeah, I saw you in action the other day.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I definitely am hard on them, but I let them know, like, for every time I'm hard on them, they get 3 hugs for that, 4 high fives, that I'm constantly reassuring them and letting them know that I'm there for them.
Right.
And so in that moment where I'm scolding them, they're a little bit embarrassed, they're a little bit upset, they may lash out, but I always do everything out of love. And so I think that, like, part of my downfall is just that, like, I'm always just like, even right after the instance that, has just happened, I'm like, come on, baby, you want to walk with me to the office? Or I'm just like, I've never, and Mr. Pete, my principal, he laughs at me all the time about it, because he's like, you hug every kid all the time. And I'm just like, but they need that.
And a lot of times.
Yeah. I was just about to say, I get so much more from them than I give. And so I think it's just like, one, I feel better when I get hugs and high fives from y'all. So a lot of it is just like building me up in that same process. Like, I've never had a problem with that. It's just like, they're like, Miss Thompson, you were just fussing and now you're smiling. They think it's because I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I love them a lot.
You took me back to childhood, because my mother used to do some of that same stuff. Like, she might have just got off our butt, literally, and I'm still.
Oh yeah.
And then she coming there with the sweetness. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, you hungry, baby?
Yeah, I'm not. No, yeah, I'm hungry. I am. Just sit the McDonald's bag at the door and get on out of here. But But you know what though? Maybe that's why I can't hold a grudge to this day. It's like, you got to get over it. Now, I got one more educational question I want to throw at you, because you've taken me through it and I appreciate it. You are the special ed teacher.
Yeah.
In Millwood public schools as a district, or just
middle school level? Just the middle school level.
Okay,
we have one educator at each of the school sites.
Okay.
But I am the special educator for the middle school. Yeah.
What is that plight like? Now, obviously, the word special education, it has sort of a negative connotation depending on who you ask.
Right.
But we know better than that, because like you said earlier, every kid can learn. So how rough or how rigorous is that plight of you figuring out how each kid learns in special education?
Yeah, so I think that it was kind of like a natural transition for me to kind of come into this role at this point in time, because I'm so obsessed with data.
Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with, scores and figuring out, how can I get this child to grow? How can I figure out, how to get you to learn? How can I get you interested in class? Because a lot of it is just like, they don't think school is cool. They get frustrated because they think it's too hard, and then they check out. So I've always been very interested to figure out, like, how can I get you, like, from here to there? And that's all special education is. It's literally looking at their test scores, looking at their classwork, figuring out who the kid is, and then trying to figure out what's the best way that they learn. Every one of them has an individualized education plan. But like I tell my kids who aren't in special ed, y'all have an individualized education plan too. Because
and just so y'all don't know that's watching, that's a fancy way for saying IEP.
Yeah, it's an IEP.
I like that she did that.
So it's just like, every kid, I actually had a kid who came up to me when he figured out that I was teaching special education, and he said, "Oh, you teach the slow kids." And I said, let's rewind a little bit. Let's rephrase that. And I said, "You're in the gifted program, right?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm in the gifted program." He was so proud. And I said, "Did you know that that's special education?" He had no idea. So, gifted education, career tech, all of that stuff falls up under the umbrella of special education, because you're actually having to tailor that child's educational experience to meet their needs.
There you go.
And so I think that special education has such a negative connotation because we've associated with what we think is negative.
Right.
But what I do love about the educational realm is that we're changing those stigmas, and we're making sure that all of the kids understand that regardless of what issues you have going on, it doesn't make you any less apt to being able to learn. Like, you don't have anything that's going to really hold you back if you're here and ready to learn and you want to get the information. And so for me, it's just been kind of like changing the atmosphere. A lot of the kids ask me, like, you don't ever have a class. Where's your class? Because I'm not in the main building with them anymore. And so a lot of the times I'm just like breaking it down. Like, if you ever need help, I'm the person you come to now. I'm available.
Come see.
If you need me to pop into your class, that's me now, because I'm a resource teacher. And so I tell them all, like, I'm your resource. Like, and so it's a nice feeling to know that it's changed their idea of what special education is. And I'm glad that I've been able to have a part in that.
In a way, you're your own department head. You know
Yeah,
but you may not have anybody else in your department, but you're department
I know,
head.
I make the rules. It's
That's
just
right.
Like, the special ed department's gonna do this. Oh, that's me.
That's me. I gonna do this all together. Now, here's how we gonna finish this thing.
Okay.
We gotta address, your paraphernalia over there. I'm looking at Miss Edmond 2020. Miss USA, my bad.
Miss Edmond USA.
Miss Edmond USA 2020. Make sure to set me straight. Tell me about pageantry, okay? Because I don't know anything about it. We talked about it off camera a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know the first step that anybody would have to do to even get affiliated with such a thing. So break all of that down for me. You got
it. So we kind of talked about how I got into pageantry, and it was really off of a whim. And so I think like the most important thing that people don't understand about pageantry is that it's not just standing up there and looking pretty. A lot of people don't understand that when you enter a pageant, you have like this level of a platform that you have to get out to people. And so when you enter a pageant, you have that platform that you're trying to push, and you have those, efforts that you want to make sure that people are aware of. And so for mine, it's educational equity with a focus in girls in STEM, specifically girls of color in STEM, but girls in STEM period. And so I think that when you have like that type of a platform and, you're able to go out and speak to people about what's going on and they're willing to listen, that's a lot of power that you have in your hands. And so that was one of the things that I really thought like, wow, I'll be able to do this to a whole new level. Because, I already do it at Millwood. I mentor the girls there. But there's some type of magical spell that kind of comes over people when they hear, she's a beauty queen. They sit and they listen.
That's a fact.
And so,
That's the hook.
it's definitely a hook. And so I think that just like helping people understand pageants are so much more than, wearing pretty dresses and, smiling and answering the on-stage questions. But we are really out here tackling real world issues and trying to figure out what it is we can do to make the world a better place. And so that's definitely one thing that I'm extremely excited about doing this year. I've already done so much in the past year working on this. I have written a book for young girls of color, introducing them to STEM careers. I've gone out and I've done book signings, and I've, read to classes, and, I've been pushing education this past year. And so it's just something that I'm very passionate about. And being in this pageant has kind of given me a platform to do that on another level. So
I did not know you had written a book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to get that. Whenever we get off air.
I will definitely. Yes, her name is Grace Parker. It's just like me.
Couple questions as it pertains to everything you just broke down.
Yeah.
Now this may be a foul question because I'm in education. What does STEM stand for again?
Oh, so it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And so I'm definitely like I coach the robotics team at Millwood, and so that's just one of the things that I want to bring awareness to, because especially in Black and Brown communities, one, they don't always have the access to the resources that they need, and two, there's the stigma that if you're smart, then you're a nerd, and it's uncool.
Yes.
And so it's totally cool to play with role, and the kids love it. And so one of the things that I've definitely been breaking down with my girls is that you can do it all. And so I've been kind of pushing that into their brain, that you can be beautiful and smart. You don't have to choose one. And so when I came to school in my sash not too long ago, and they were just kind of like, oh, like, what are you doing, Miss Thompson? Like, what is this for? And I was kind of explaining it to them. That just kind of, blew their mind. They're just like, that's so smart. Like, you can be able to do things. Like, why have we never thought of it this way? And so it's just like allowing them to have exposure to things that they had not had exposure to before, or maybe had not thought of.
Right. You only know what you know.
Exactly. And so, like I said, more than anything, I just want to be a positive representation for girls of color, and making sure that they understand there is no ceiling for them. They can go as far as they want to.
Do you have a team that works with you, or that you work in collaboration with, or is this a one-woman wrecking crew right here?
You know what? I have been so blessed to have my boyfriend, Martez. He has literally helped me with my website. He has been the one to take me on my interviews, the one who has been campaigning with me. He helps to get me advertisements. We work together as a team for like PR and just trying to figure out exactly what direction I want to go with this, because he's very business oriented. And so we're just kind of like a 2-person team. But from the beginning, he's just hit the ground running, and we've kind of been going since the beginning of this year. So yeah,
That's
amazing backbone to have.
Salute to you. Well, you have been more than gracious with your time. So at this point, I'm gonna let you plug everything you got going on, where everybody can find you. You know what I mean? If they want, if they're just curious and following you, or if they want some information from you, how does one find and get in touch with Samone Thompson? Go.
All right. Well, I have recently written a book to encourage girls to go into STEM careers. The name of that book is Grace Parker, Just Like Me. That's available on Amazon. You can go ahead and order that today. And if you have Prime, it'll be here by the beginning of next week. So go ahead and do that. On Facebook, I am Samone Thompson. And on Instagram, I'm actually Nia Shea. So NIA.ASE. And you can find all of my pageantry plugs on those as well. Go to SimoneThompson.com if you want to learn more about my platform.
Miss Edmond USA 2020. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me your time. I enjoyed it.